So basically, I'm going to try to do a second part to the live I did a little while ago that's cut out when I started talking about certain things. I had started the video to talk about my divorce and why I ended up in this situation that I would not have been in had I had an attorney and had my parents believed in legal rights as I, have legal rights. And I am an adult. I was 32 when I fled my marriage. There we go. Whoever was watching is no longer watching. I'm going to switch this. So essentially, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Basically, sorry, and I'd like to disclose again that I am on my medical cannabis. My second husband may not. Hi, whoever's joined. I'm about to talk about some stuff that may be traumatizing, but I need to be live because I don't have storage space on my laptop anymore because I've been in what started as a form of alluring labor trafficking, human trafficking since 2019. I hope I don't offend or upset anyone who's watching. I also hope you can hear me. I know this is not the best quality microphone. Anyway, I may end up making this unlisted again in a moment because I keep seeing people jump on and then jump off, and that's fine. But I'm, as a medium, I'm kind of being guided to do this public right now. So that you're aware it is really very much very live. Let me try it this way. Maybe I won't be distracted by people jumping on. If I'm going to do it this way, then let me at least put a disclaimer. Hold on 1 second. All right. So essentially, my second husband may have dismissed the reality of my existence prior to us reconnecting in the end of 2013 because he had been fantasizing about someone he met on a website. I had been 16 years old. He had been 18 or 19 years old. We met when my parents were not home, and I lied to them about it later on. Had that not been the case, I obviously would not have met him. However, any time I would lie to my parents about meeting people, I was overall very safe about it. There was never sex exchanged, with the exception of one individual who I had been speaking with for over a year, almost a year, around that amount of time. The individual who took nude photos of me. But overall, for the most part, that was how people made friends, at least how I made friends living in the suburbs with no one. When we moved to a different neighborhood, I was within walking distance of someone, people. So anyway, my second husband, We had tenants. He didn't know that basically he does not believe in communication. So I would be me and he hated me for it, but he wouldn't talk to me about it. He would wait until the very last minute and then explode in attack. And he would have killed me had I, not fled, essentially. And he had tenants that were, at least one of them was a friend of mine at one point in time. And her husband may not know, or maybe he does. I don't know. I don't know if they're still married either. That when she first brought him to our house, the first time she introduced him to me, all she talked about was how much money his parents had when he left the table to use the bathroom. I'm not one of those kinds of people. I have not ever been one of those kinds of people. In fact, I am the type of person who is typically taken advantage of by those kinds of people. That is not something my second husband knew, because my second husband and I did not talk about things because he had made up a fantasy in his own head about what reality is. That's okay, except for the fact that that's not reality. And it's important to understand this because he still has my 2 other dogs and he's blocked me, and I want my kids. I have the right to my kids, and he does not believe in things like, I don't know, blood-borne illnesses, or understanding the evolution of things like rabies, and allows the dogs that he has left, to eat groundhogs and attack animals. And while yes, those are in fact natural animal behaviors and skills, it's the fact that he doesn't even take into consideration the fact that there are blood-borne illnesses like rabies, and the fact that one of my dogs has repeatedly attacked the dog that belongs to his mistress. Initially, it started when I brought home my tiny dog, my dog Ruby, that Kaylee would start attacking Chassis whenever Chassis was at the house. But then we moved, and I'm assuming that Kaylee started attacking Chassis because Chassie's parents were the reason that I left. And took, because Kaylee loved my dog Ruby. She thought I brought her home a toy. It was only once Ruby started becoming a little bit possessive of me that Kaylee kind of, she attacked her a couple of times. And John thought it was funny. I had to separate my kids for their own health and for their own, well-being, so that if anything has happened to Kaylee because of John's negligence, like whenever she would kind of and go after Ruby, and I have to say, she is the most amazing dog, but she either needs to be with Remus or she needs to be by herself. But she loves Kate. Like, she is the most amazing fucking dog in the entire world, along with Remus, along with Ruby. But if John did anything, and my other dog, the last time I saw him, he was only walking on 3 legs because he injured the back one. And as opposed to trying to, make sure the dog kept it still, oh, he's just going to jump and just make the injury worse. He didn't even disclose. I don't know if he disclosed them to his attorney. We did not go and sit at an attorney's office because he hates attorneys. In fact, one of the things he hated about me was the fact that the condo that he rented to former tenants that then later stalked me for whatever fucking reason, I don't know. One of them making a social media account pretending to be me. I don't know what is going on with that person, but they were not in my life for a reason. And one of those reasons is the fact that I respect the shit that they go through, but I also respect myself. And the moment my ex-husband raped me, and I told her and I asked her for help, and she fucking didn't do shit. At one point, she asked me why I took it, and then later she suggested I go find a sugar daddy to escape my marriage. No, those might work for some people, but not everybody. And while I respect the individuals that have to go by those means to get through things, and I don't judge them, I don't want to die because I didn't choose that and I fled without taking an alimony, because at this point, that seems like it's the only fucking thing. And I gave up a 10-year career where I actually did make money. He just doesn't believe it. My mom doesn't believe it, and that's because she doesn't understand the industry, and that when I moved home, there was a recession. And in hairstyling, it takes years to build up a solid clientele. And by the time I found a salon that actually was a good salon and a decent place to work where I built a clientele, I ended up moving because she ended up selling her house. And John had been fantasizing about me for so long that the moment I became single, we ended up talking again, and he ended up inviting me, and that was it. I was in such a vulnerable, I was floating. I was such in fucked up state from the last relationship I had fled. I had not been making smart decisions. He and I would not have gotten married. I'm sorry. I did not give up all of my doctors, all of my friends, my entire life. Now, a lot of those people may have, I don't know, told me to go fucking myself because it's going to come out that they themselves are racist or allow pedophilia. I don't know. But that is the fucking reality here. And I know that I may die, and I don't fucking care because other people's lives are just as important. I really don't want to die, though. So whoever the fuck was starting rumors saying that I was going to hurt myself, you don't know me. Why are you lying about me? Because you want bad things to happen to people, or because you don't want to deal with the fact that you likely have done bad things? Why are you punishing me for fleeing my mom? Why are you punishing me for living my life? What the fuck did I do to you? What the fuck did these other people do to you? Because very clearly you have issues against them if you have issues against me. That is not the route that I wanted to take this, but that is where it ended up. I'm sorry. One of the things that bothered my ex was when I would get passionate about things and have feelings. Feelings are important. We need to understand how we feel about things. And if we can't differentiate the fact, it's different when we get caught up in emotion, like, and the feelings, that there are different types of feelings, and that needs to be understood. Because my mom's main concern is that I've hurt her feelings. But the reality is that her emotions on that are it doesn't, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings, but let's look at the entirety of the situation here. Okay. There are more things involved than just you and I. And when I left, it wasn't about our relationship. It was about your inability to address a specific thing, which had to do with your internalized, the issues that you deal with racism on a daily basis and how you view the world and interact with other people. And as opposed to talking, and same thing with your husband and his issues, as opposed to discussing and addressing that issue, you switched and you blamed me. I am not the reason that you have those issues. I am not that fault. You have to deal with that yourself. And if you don't want to deal with that, then you just say, okay, you're entitled to that opinion. I ask you to leave. At which point, that's fine. I was not trying to cause problems, but the members of your congregation have the right to know the truth. And they have the right to make their own decisions, especially when it comes to finances. As do anyone who, you worked for MetLife. This is a major insurance company. Were there business practices that were, I don't know, potentially illegal because of biases? I don't know. But it's an important thing to understand. And if you decided to try and prevent me from living my life because of that, that is a problem. Or if I don't know, is it because of your age-related mental loss? Like, not the memory issues that you signed up for at a memory clinic, but then were denied because of your cholesterol, but then refused to go back on a vegan diet to lower your cholesterol because your husband doesn't eat that food. Because you didn't give a reason, but that's the reason you stopped being vegan to begin with. And you might not even have the memory issues you have now had you stuck with that diet. You need a man who actually cares about your life and not someone who dismisses it and says, no, I want what I want for you and lets you suffer. That is not love. Anyway, it was not about our relationship. There were other people involved, and you pulled in other people and potentially made them commit crimes. This is very important for a church congregation to understand. And this should not be typical of churches, but it seems to issues with just issues in general seem to be the standard. It's not okay. Because I know deep in your heart, that's not what you want. Anyway, so I had mentioned in a previous video, I'm just gonna, okay. I had mentioned in a previous video how I had my ex-husband kind of forced money on me when I first moved in with him. Um, and then I did have some depression spending. I bought things, like I had gained some weight when I moved down there. So I bought some new clothes, like a couple of outfits. I bought some makeup so that I could start doing makeup again and make some extra money doing, because I had been a makeup artist that was my profession. So I bought some makeup because I was going to start doing makeup again. I was going to do a makeup YouTube or a makeup Instagram. I hadn't decided, but I was going to get myself back into it. And I bought some vape stuff to help, so that I would quit the little e-cigarettes that I had got used to after quitting smoking. And then I got into real estate, and basically the rest of what went on my credit cards ended up being my attempting to start a business. But it's once I got into real estate after I took the classes and graduated and started working, and like immediately I went to Keller Williams through Keller Williams, and I went to a bold class. And it was once I went to bold that suddenly my ex started becoming very psychologically manipulative. And it's because he doesn't believe in real estate. He thinks it's all a scam and a lie. And he didn't understand why I was investing money right away. And it became so abusive that I wasn't able to physically leave, like so psychologically and emotionally abusive. I was not able to physically leave the house and had to start asking people to do if I could do video attendance, which I did for the remainder of the course. Like he would get mad when I would, talk about, or even kind of to myself, try and content, not to myself, but aloud to myself, like the concept of what we focus on expands, which is if you focus on something, it will expand because you're going to think about it, and it ends up like, and no, that's stupid. And he doesn't believe anything outside of his mindset. And at one point I had made sure, when our tenants moved into so he had tenants himself, and then he didn't tell the condo association that he was renting his unit because he didn't think he had to. And when they found out, they hit him with this whole thing that he needed to use the form in the condo association book, which I had gotten my real estate license, so I was going to list it and, all that. I opened the book, and they were the form in the book, they were basically trying to run the condo association as if they were running an apartment complex. And he was basically having his tenants sign a contract with them and not him, which I went to the attorney. I went to, my mentor at the Keller Williams, and I asked him, because they have like mentorship program, and I had asked him, like, what would you do in this situation? And he recommended an attorney. My ex-husband was able to get one through a coworker. It should be noted that that person may have swiped on me at Bumble at one point, and they did friend me on Facebook later on. Anyway, he recommended an attorney that ended up, doing a contract so that it was legitimately his rental. And then when he hated me for it, because he hates attorneys, and he hated me for it so much. And the person who rented that unit has no idea how much what she was going through at that moment. She didn't understand that because she's never really dealt with that sort of thing before. And she had quite possibly told her husband's parents something else was going on, and they did not know that my husband had spent $5,000 on an attorney to get the documentation worked out properly, so that it was an actual like legal binding contract, that so that it worked like it's supposed to. And there are reasons for this. Now, being someone who comes from a family of attorneys, seeking out an attorney, kind of like that's the thing to do. He may have abused me to the point where I didn't I was so terrified of attorneys that I just fled. Our divorce, we didn't seek counsel. We had been watching a show, and something on the show triggered a memory of back when I did hair in Florham Park, and I remembered two coworkers who their parents had a specific type of divorce where the kids and mom and stuff were still able to be on health insurance after they were divorced. And the therapist I had been seeing at the time actually mentioned to me, you should consider that kind of divorce. And we were just watching TV, and I had just kind of mentioned it because of the show. And then like the next time we really talked about it, he kind of served me paperwork or basically said he was going to do that. We did not have a normal divorce. I fled as soon as possible. I didn't know where to go or what to do, and I did not know that there were domestic violence things set in place. Otherwise, I would have done that. I had been trying to explain to the person renting the condo from us the serious nature of the situation, and she just dismissed it because she didn't see it. It still existed. The man, he did not like her son. He wanted to abuse her son. He hated her son. She didn't believe me because when they were together, he was nice. It was the moment that they walked out the door that he would start trash talking them, and not necessarily to a degree that a lot of people, but like little subtleties, and just about how much he hated her child and wished harm on him. And I would keep telling him, like, it is not the child's fault. You have to work through your issues yourself. That is you. That is not him. That is you. And it was just like, he doesn't care. He still wanted to take it out on the child. And when the final divorce agreement, he had wanted to basically, there was at one point he ignored my health issues and my concerns about, he would have had me die pregnant on the couch because he wanted a child to abuse for the sole purpose of abusing it. That was the conversation that ended our marriage. Now, the marriage had been over for over a year at that point, and I had been trying to figure out how to leave. I had been completely faithful to him. It's just that he would attack me because he was developing feelings and thought that my being nice to him was psychological warfare, or just my being myself saying things like, oh, I'm thirsty. Like, he just kind of like, I think I'm going to go get myself a drink. I was trying to trick him into getting a drink for me. Now, when I left my marriage, I had been under the impression that I would be receiving a portion of an estate. Now, had I had legal representation for the entire time, I would not have been a beneficiary in the estate at all. I did not have legal representation. And this is important because the estate, by today's standard, is no longer that sizable. And it doesn't exist anymore. To the best of my knowledge, the entire thing was basically spent on legal costs. I don't know. I didn't have any legal representation, and it's since been settled and like closed off. And unfortunately, there is a very, very serious reality that my former coworkers may have some sort of involvement to a certain degree. Now, one of the reasons I'm saying this is my bankruptcy attorney is the same bankruptcy attorney I used after my first divorce, when the wills were the will that I was a beneficiary in was not officially made. So that estate would not have been considered. So I don't know, like I was not an heir to anything at that particular point in time. I fled my first marriage. I was diagnosed with cancer. I moved from having a good job into the United States where it was a recession, and it took me a very long time to find a solid, steady job. I had cancer. I then ended up getting trigeminal neuralgia. I ended up breaking a rib, coughing so hard from bronchitis. All of these things happened. So I filed for bankruptcy. He filed it, and I wasn't ever expecting to do it again. And then I got married again, and I ended up fleeing. And he had been paying the majority of my bills because after he was psychological. I was so fucked up from what happened while I was trying to do real estate, and then with the health issues I was having, the only job I could actually capably do. I was trying so hard. I was doing my best, but healing is a process, and not everyone can simply just go away. A lot of us have to function in society. And other people forget that. So if I have at any point offended or upset anyone who's trying to reintegrate themselves into society, I sincerely apologize. Please let me know if you want to and we can work on it. I apologize if you don't want to work on it. That's fine. I appreciate and I understand that. And I respect you and take your time, work on you. That is important. But if we don't recognize the fact that we need to work on ourselves and heal in order to make progress and move forward, then there's no way to make progress and move forward. And unfortunately, it seemed like almost like my mom was attacking me for having made progress because it wasn't the progress that she wanted me to make. I don't know why she told me to just go ahead and try to leave her, essentially. I wasn't there for her. I fled abuse. And then I move in and I don't know what she thought was going on or why she thought I was there, but it was immediately she tried to take control of my life. And the only thing I could do was put on blinders. I had been asking people for help from the moment I moved in there. I had reached out to multiple friends, explaining the situation, explaining what I overheard in groups, explaining what was going on. Sorry, I don't want to work myself up too much. I the typical response is just deal with it. But the thing is, we shouldn't be forced to deal with things if we don't want to. And it took me, I could not make decisions for, I shouldn't have been making certain decisions. And I was relying on people who I thought were friends at that point to help me make decisions. And I didn't necessarily understand where they were at that point in time either. And so anyway, I had filed for bankruptcy a second time. I had not planned to, but I knew it existed. That was not my plan, though. I was looking for work. I had immediately started looking for work. I left my job. I was driving for Lyft. My health issues flared up, and I physically spent the majority of 2018 in an extraordinary amount of pain. I have multiple emergency room visits. I have doctor's visits. That's when I was diagnosed with the hypermobility. I had CAT scans, PET scans. I have scans that show kidney stones. I spent the majority of the time in excruciating pain with my kidneys. I have evidence. I was diagnosed with lupus at one point. It was ANA negative lupus, but I did have a doctor say, everything, this is pretty much what it seems like, especially with, the history, how it flares, and with my mom and her history, and how, my mom, it indicated that she likely has lupus too. And my mom lost her mind. And she doesn't believe anything I say, but she also doesn't understand the concept of bouncing ideas around, and that just because I say something doesn't make it completely literal. You have to ask me, do you believe this is 100% fact? Or are you just simply talking and thinking and formulating ideas? Because we think differently. And that needs to be understood, is that a lot of her basis is based on a very different thought process than who I am. When she sees things, she addresses. When I was painting my Taurus painting, I had it blocked out as just the horns. And as opposed to asking me, hey, what are you painting? She comes in, she's like, so what made you decide to pick that? Not what is it about that? What do you think it is? Satan's horns? Because that's not what it is. Why are you bothering me? Just ask me, what are you painting? As opposed to, why that? What's going on? Sorry. My ex-husband at one point seemed to be mad at me for being raised to be a wife. It was almost like he completely dismissed my childhood, and that's just what happened. Was he regressed me into childhood. And I reacted the way I knew how. And my mom, the pastor at my mom's church and this is why I need help finding an attorney. And one of many reasons why I need help finding an attorney. The pastor at the church happens to be very good friends with the individual who was trustee on my bankruptcy. And he made sure that I was aware of that. He didn't mention my bankruptcy, but he told me I needed to get a real job and then told me that he knew her. I had a real job. It wasn't there were issues that I was still trying to figure out how to handle at that point in time, but I had a real job. What was my mom telling you? What did you guys think was going on? And no, my ex-husband had been paying for 50% of my bills, which I myself had been able to pay for while I was employed. It was just the moment I went out on disability and I had Aflac. He may have been lying. I don't know. The owe him money thing. He claims that he was like, I forget it, but it was legitimately just anything he had ever spent on me, because it almost seemed like he was holding this grudge on me for even like the fact that grocery bills went up, So I had planned to pay him every cent back. But no, like, he had been paying my bills by law. I thought I was going to be okay because the estate had just issued a final accounting. I did not know that they were not done, that it was not a final accounting, and that, first off, it was not like it was only like $100,000, but I had been planning to return to college and buy a house. That had been my goal. That had been my plan. And only $100,000, that is a lot of money. For someone who has very little, that is a lot of money. But still, I had been planning to buy a house. I had been planning to, set roots and like actually be able to invest in myself, because I had tossed around the idea of going back to college to my ex-husband, and he was not happy about that. So, like, I had given up a career, but I'm again, this is still a prescription. Sorry, something just happened on my screen. I know this is a lot, and it's very public, but I may have at one point in 2019, when I got my tax return, I had purchased a ticket to go visit a friend in the UK. It was only $400. I was very excited. I was going to go. I was going to take it was the first real vacation. And then my attorney waited to file paperwork and then lied to me about when he filed the paperwork. And they put the hearing, and that is, in fact, in an email. I have this as documented evidence. Okay. And then the court date the hearing date that they issued was for when my trip was scheduled. And this is not like I was there to visit a friend. I wasn't going to do a lot of touristy things because I couldn't necessarily afford them. I was there to visit her. I missed her. I hadn't seen her in a while. She had gotten married. Anyway, they scheduled the hearing for the same time I'd be away. And when I asked him about it, because they said to contact your attorney to reschedule, his response to me was simply just don't show up, which again, in email. I recognized at that point I could not trust him, and I canceled my trip. I requested my funds back from Cheapo Air as well as Virgin Air directly. It was a $400 ticket. I had forgotten that my passport, my legal name is different. So when I ended up having to spend an extra $80 to have my name corrected after I purchased the ticket. Because I very rarely would use my middle name, but it is in my passport. The world would be a different place if I had taken that trip, because I would have talked about the issues I was having at work and the issues I was having just everything with other people. And I may have been able to get the help that I needed at that point. I would have been able to talk about what was going on with the stuff at my mom's church and what I was witnessing at home. But I didn't have that as an opportunity. I ended up staying. I still have not left North America. That is fine. I have been very grateful to have lived in Canada. I'm not saying I'm not grateful there. That attorney later on hired my former coworkers, and the reporter that was sent to him was the one that we had the problems with, the one that I caught lying and have evidence of lying, the one who would send in exhibits way after, some exhibits like weeks after the transcript had even been due. Like the one that my former coworkers claims might be sugaring. Again, I have nothing against individuals who choose that path. That is just not something for me. And I do regret even putting my photo online for that. I very much regret that. Because it's not me. I was just scared in a situation, and I think it's very important that everyone is themselves. The problem is that it's anytime I've tried to find and be myself that all of a sudden everybody tells me that people just start attacking me for whatever reason. And it's not that I'm doing anything wrong. It's just I'm not what they want, I guess. Anyway. I don't know what's going on. Someone may have been projecting something on me at a certain point in time, because they thought that it was about a relationship, but the relationship had ended, and someone else may have cast a love spell on me. And it's okay if certain people don't believe that. And she told me that it was a fairly accurate love spell. It's okay if people don't believe that, but I request that you consider it the same as saying a prayer. And while thoughts and prayers aren't always something that, work, for some individuals, they want, they live in a reality where thoughts become things. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. But I think it's important to understand, laws are in place for a reason, to protect people. And when we go back and forth, we don't really make any progress as a civilization. We have only had technology and certain things for so long. And I'm sorry, the level of interaction we have with each other on a daily basis is unhealthy to a certain degree. We're not meant to be texting each other all day long. We're not meant to be talking to each other at work. We're meant to be, it's fine for some people, and I think people deserve that as an option. But, when you go to work, you're there to work. My landlord's brother may not be aware of the fact that, I don't know, all of the times that he was at work supposed to be doing his job and he was instead on the computer writing his story. What was it? Gods and Dragons. I didn't read it, but you sent me the link. That belongs to Amazon. You were on company time. That may be somewhere in the fine print that you agreed to that you aren't aware of, but that my artwork, however, not that belongs to me. I painted that off company time, and I did not ever work for Amazon. Not saying that I don't know why that came out the way it came out. I apologize. But no, like sorry, someone's realizing that that is the truth when they see this, that when I was at work, because one of the things that my former employers were curious about was what the employee who worked from home was doing while she was at work, supposed to be working. And I don't know because, I wasn't there. But when I was working, I paid, like I would listen to things, like I would listen to some podcasts sometimes. I would listen to meditative tracks, binaural beats to help me focus. I would listen to stuff on YouTube. I wouldn't watch things. My coworker would watch. She would have her phone set up at her desk so she could look down and watch TV while she was working. Not all the time, but sometimes. These are important things to know. I'm trying to think what else. Right now, again, I am on a medication and I do need to go to sleep. And this has been 40 minutes now. It hasn't cut out, so I guess this has taken a much better route than the last video. But yeah, so I wanted to, because I've asked the IRS to audit me. I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't want to die. And I'm saying, the majority of my income goes to renting my car and being able to operate it. And the car that I'm renting right now, it's too hot to drive it during certain hours now. So I'm going to be returning it this week at some point, but I need to make as much as possible so that I can rent another one. And the issue has been that I haven't been able to save up enough to get a rental through Hertz or Avis. I've only been able to rent daily because of, I make a certain amount per day, and then there's some days I have more expenses. So and then I legitimately, some days it's $100 to work. And then some days I only make $100 or $120 because it's just not that busy. It's not a super thankfully I've had a bit of stability with it, but it's not constantly stable. And my phone now doesn't have storage space because I don't have Wi-Fi, so I can't back my stuff up. And because it doesn't have storage space, I can't have certain apps on it. So I can only use so many gig apps. I don't have the storage space to have all of the jobs that I would normally be having. But I have been looking for other employment. It's simply that the whistleblower laws, the laws that should have been in place to protect me, all kind of failed, quite possibly because I don't know what was going on. But it's terrifying. And one of the things that was really terrifying to me was why I was suddenly seeing photos on my Instagram feed right before COVID. Like all of these, a couple, like 2 or 3 people I followed were nurses. And as opposed to taking things very seriously about the fact that they were going to be on call, they started treating it like a 2-week vacation. And I just started seeing all of these photos of people like getting completely obliterated, trash, drinking shitloads about just like photos of like lots of alcohol bottles, almost like forgetting that they're medical professionals on call and what on call means. And that when you sign up for an on call position, you need to be on call ready at all times, especially, with something that just starts killing people. One of the main concerns is, what if war breaks out in this country? Will we, on our soil, how will people react? Will they take it seriously, or will they just kind of joke about it? That is a very serious question to ask after, what we've experienced. Anyway, there are other things. I still need an attorney, but I think it's very important to understand why I'm making these videos. When I moved in this house, I was wearing a Mastodon t-shirt when I moved in this house, and I hope that did not offend my neighbor, because at a certain point my neighbor had asked me for a cigarette. I had such a limited income and was also trying to quit. I did not want to give them a cigarette. I think I may have one left in the house. So it was just like I didn't want to buy another pack. I was trying to quit, but I wanted that one last cigarette. So I'm pretty certain I told them that I didn't have any. And so he just walked over to borrow mine later. And then, after he saw my Mastodon shirt, it was like sudden silence. So I sincerely apologize. I did not mean to offend. Um, anyway, I think I'm going to end this video and go to sleep, and then I gotta go back to work. Yeah, because it's almost 2 o'clock. So I'm going to. Sorry, I'm. It's taken some getting used to, but aging, I'm okay with. I'm thankfully no longer hit on by people who are still teenagers. Thankfully, it's quite flattering when it happens, but it is very awkward and uncomfortable. But um, I know that's very awkward. I apologize. So yeah, I'm old now, so I'm okay with it. I've been very blessed to have good genetics. Um, it's simply I don't want medical negligence based off of discrimination to be my demise, as every single person has the right to life. Um, and the thing is that, yes, while my mom was pregnant with me, I likely would have been in today's world medically terminated. And yes, given the life that I've lived so far, I would have preferred that had it been an option to me. And yes, I actually may have tried to kill myself in utero because I was not moving the last 8 weeks. She went to the doctor. Her doctor was on vacation. And I think this is what I started talking about in the other video. Her doctor had been on vacation. And again, I have to say, I don't, obviously, I'm not, I'm here. I'm very grateful for the life that I've had. And I had been looking forward to, many, many amazing things in life. I don't know if I'll ever get there. I had wanted to learn how to ride a bike. I had wanted to go on a picnic. Legitimately, I don't know how to ride a bike. I rode a tricycle for a little bit as a child, but then I never learned how to ride a bike. My brother learned how to ride a bike. My parents ride bikes. I don't know how to ride a bike. Anyway, I'm very grateful to be here, but she had she'd gone, her obstetrician was on vacation, and someone else gave her the ultrasound and said I was fine. And then I have had health issues since birth, basically. So in hindsight, yes, I would have preferred that the pregnancy be terminated. I that's all I can say. I know that probably sounds awful, but being that I'm 36 now, I don't want her to terminate me now. That would be murder, and I would prefer. Again, I don't want to die. But yeah. I think I'm just gonna end this after that because there's nowhere else to go with that. There were other things going on, and I was trying to to focus on myself quietly. And I was kind of forced into being public about things. Like there were certain things in my life I was being public about because I had been using social media to very slowly regain social skills. And after I moved into this house, something happened, like with a whole bunch of stuff. And had I not moved into this house, I'm 100% sure it would not have happened. 100% sure. Especially since I would not have seen Shaquem again. Like I had been trying to distance myself from him, and while I was very thankful for the fact that he was feeding me and that he was listening for what I was going on, I had been trying to distance myself. It was just one of those really weird, like I have a very hard time telling people no when I mean it, and that's one of the reasons again I tend to not go out in public except for work. This is not because I want to isolate myself. It's because I don't have the support system that I need. And I had been trying to get to a point where I could build one. It's just my second husband didn't like that I was doing that. And then once I moved, like the moment I started to out on my own and try and be comfortable doing things on my own so that I could build a support system, all of this people were stalking me. Like all of this shit was going on. There are very important other things that are very important. I'm not going to talk about it with an attorney because I don't want what I am saying and what I mean to be misinterpreted, because I am concerned for the life and livelihood of many people who have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's why we're here, at least. I would like to imagine that. Anyway, thank you for your time. Again, I don't like speaking candidly because I know I have issues with communication, and that sometimes I do say things that I don't necessarily mean and choose the wrong words and phrasing. So again, if anybody has any questions, or if I need to clarify things, I have no problem doing that. Communication is so important, especially when with the English language, when words themselves can have multiple meanings, not just with the word itself, but the tone and inflection with which it is spoken. Like certain words can have up like 6, 7 definitions, and then depending on how someone says it, it can mean each of those definitions could, be entirely different. So it's anyway. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you. Oh, and anyone, in case anyone is curious, I don't know if you can see it in here. I noticed I'm a bit yellow today. That happens sometimes. I don't know why. On the last few years, really, like I turn like a little yellow. Sometimes, not all the time. I don't know if it has to do with my health flares, like with the kidney stuff. Thankfully, the kidney and the like. I used to get flares of like urinary issues where I would have to pee every like 2 seconds, or sometimes it would take me 2 hours to pee, and I would sit. I would wake up as a child. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I am not kidding you. I would sit in a position where I was flexing, trying to urinate for so long that my body would forget how to relax, and I wouldn't be able to get off the toilet because I physically couldn't relax. And I might just start, if I actually urine was in my system, it would just flow right out. Like and since my stroke again, like this, the right side of my face does do things on its own. So I apologize. But yeah, so anyway, thank you for your time. I appreciate you. And yeah, thank you.